Welcome to hour number 2 of a Tuesday live right here on the morning after on Sports Grid. Sirius XM, channel 159. That's the home for Sports Grid Radio on Sirius XM. The Spiz Grizz network as well. That's Sports Grid, and I am Ben Stevens. Plenty to get to here in hour number 2. More thoughts from the NFL. Who will have the worst record in the National Football League this year? It's something you can actually bet on. Will any team remain winless all of 2022? We'll look at that in just a couple of minutes. And tomorrow starts the WNBA playoffs. Our coach, James Young, joins us to break down everything from the WNBA postseason, and we round out this second hour with Connor O'Gara. His reactions to the AP Top 25 and where the college football landscape stands here in the preseason, just over a week and a half away from week 0 of the college football campaign, Saturday, August 27th. That's the start of a new season. The NFL soon starts as well. The WNBA playoffs into the ending portion of that year, and the Major League Baseball season certainly in the home stretch. Playoff positioning front and center on this Tuesday MLB slate with one of the biggest matchups we will see all day and maybe all week long. The Chicago White Sox host the Houston Astros today. On the south side, it's Dylan Cease against Justin Verlander, a matchup of the two betting favorites right now to win the American League Cy Young. Justin Verlander is the odds-on favorite, ever so slightly, at minus 125. But Dylan Cease has skyrocketed up this board. He is plus 165 with the second best price. He was 18-1 just about a month and a half ago. Those are the K-props. We'll get to them in just a minute. But right now, Dylan Cease in Chicago, a moneyline underdog at the moment, live on the FanDuel Sportsbook for this matchup in a big game against the Houston Astros. Plus 108 is that price on Chicago. Plus 108 on the money line. The Astros minus 126, and the total, of course, with two outstanding arms on the bump, is relatively low as well. 7, with the under having a slight bit of juice. Here's what you need to know about Dylan Cease, and this is why Cease's number to win the American League Cy Young has become shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter in the last month and a half. Now the second best price once again at plus 165. Dylan Cease has made 14 straight starts for the White Sox where he has given up one earned run or less. 14 straight starts where Dylan Cease has allowed only one earned run or even less. And he has allowed that same margin, one earned run or less, in 15 of his last 16. But Justin Verlander remains the favorite to win the American League Cy Young at minus 125 because Verlander, at the tender age of 37 years young, has also kept pace. He has not lost a start, has Verlander, since the middle of June. And in that span, the last 2 months, the Astros are 7-1 straight up as a team when Verlander gets the start. Houston booked as a favorite in nearly 92% of their games this year, and they are a favorite once again at minus 126 on the road today in Chicago. However, as Kevin Walsh and I discussed early on in our opening hour here of this Tuesday TMA, it's a big day for those American League Cy Young odds and a big day for the American League pennant odds as well. A welcome to our Sports Grid Radio audience here, the second hour of the morning after, live on this Tuesday, all across the grid, Sirius XM channel 159, and all of our terrestrial radio affiliates now in the fold as well. I am Ben Stevens. A monumental matchup today between the White Sox and the Astros because of the two starting pitchers. Justin Verlander for the road team and the Stros taking on Dylan Cease and the Chicago White Sox. Verlander is the favorite to win the AL Cy Young at minus 125. Cease the second best odds at plus 165. Dylan Cease, 14 straight starts, allowing just one earned run or less for the White Sox. Verlander and the Astros. Justin Verlander has not lost a start since the middle of June, and Houston is 7-1 straight up as a team during that time. As you look at their K-props today, both of those numbers seem to be within reach for both of the starting arms that we have. 6.5, but the under has the juice for Verlander. The over has the juice for Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has gone over that number of 6.5 in 5 of his last 7 starts for the White Sox. And again, it's a big day for the American League pennant odds because it has felt like now or never. Put up or shut up time for the White Sox all year long. They are 2 games back, both the top spot in the American League Central, trailing the Cleveland Guardians, and 2 games out of that 3rd and final American League wildcard race. Yet the White Sox own the 5th best odds to win the AL pennant at this time. The Astros have the 2nd best price at plus 175, only behind the New York Yankees, who remain the favorites at plus 160. There you will see the Seattle Mariners, who currently occupy the top spot in the American League wildcard race, and the former American League Cy Young Award winner, Robbie Ray, from last year, gets the start today against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. It was a great pitcher's duel yesterday, or at least on paper. Luis Castillo against Shohei Ohtani. Both pitchers showed out, but as has happened much for the Halos this year, they lose the baseball game 6-2. The Mariners and the Angels again tonight, with Robbie Ray on the bump for the M's. We talk about the National Football League. Who's going to have the worst year in the league? Up next on The Morning After.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less.
Aaron Rodgers and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
sports
The Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to
PPG,
coast.
that's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind
decisions.
of bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live
I
all
like
access.
I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take it 4.5.
In-game live. Prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live. Overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. Diamond Bets.
Dodgers heading into the weekend, minus 160. This morning, when you wake up bright and early and you get the crust out of your eye, it's plus 155. The Mets were plus 220 after Jacob deGrom's 1-0 win yesterday, plus 200. So the Mets are getting ever closer here, my friend, to this National League number. It's a 3-team race for the National League crown. It's the Dodgers, it's the Mets, it's the Braves. What's fascinating to me is that the Brewers are still plus 1,400 and the Cardinals are plus 15.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell coast to coast.
If we're gonna treat everyone the same in this world, then he deserves to be treated the same way. A-Rod, McGuire, Sosa. I believe all of his numbers are phony. He's a fake. He is a cheater. He is a user. He is a fraud. He is a steroid guy. All those numbers, those jacked home run totals. He hit a home run every day.
The Sports Grid Network.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow into the $1.3 trillion business of sports with your daily numbers game. Well, Bob Chapek and Disney certainly know how to inspire. And remember, their fourth quarter earnings of last year said, we're flat, so let's get to a point where gaming is a central focus of ours. A little controversy at Disney relative to Florida. But the bottom line is it doesn't impact the gaming industry as well. And it's rumored to be a bottom line mega deal with DraftKings or Caesars or others to generate significant dollars. They were also looking at the hub of a wheel to be up to $3 billion in revenue enhancement over time. That may not be the way they cut the deal. They may partner with a large company and take little risk, maybe a little less revenue. However they do it, Chapek said the announcement is coming soon, and Disney, as they usually do, will dominate the space. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Daily Numbers Game.
Oftentimes here on the morning after, we try to highlight the best of sports, especially getting ready for a new season in the National Football League. But for the next couple of minutes here on this Tuesday edition of TMA, we'll actually look at the bottom of the barrel, the worst of the worst, as the odds indicate for the National Football League in the 2022 regular season. Who will have the worst record in the league this year? And right now, the betting favorite, if you want to conceptualize it as that, to have the worst record in the NFL in 2022, that would be the Houston Texans, or at least the shortest price to have the worst record. Plus 350 for Houston to have the worst record in the NFL in 2022. As we look at these odds here, available on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The second best price, the Atlanta Falcons, 50 cents behind at plus 400. It is interesting to see the Seattle Seahawks there, tied for the third lowest number to have the worst regular season record this upcoming year at plus 750, alongside the Chicago Bears and then the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Carolina Panthers, all at 9-1. We'll dive into Seattle in just a little bit. But again, let's focus on those top two teams, or the bottom two teams in the NFL this season. Only 50 cents of difference between both the Texans and the Falcons in terms of having the league's worst record. Will it be an over year? Will it be a goose egg year for either of those two teams, or maybe anybody out of the 32 NFL organizations? The odds indicate not really a likely chance that happens, that we see a team now in a 17-game regular season unable to get just one straight-up win, because the no of a team finishing over, winless, 0-17 has heavy juice at minus 200 in the season specials category on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The yes is a ton of plus money at plus 700. Last year, the worst team in the NFL was the Jacksonville Jaguars. In a 17-game regular season, the Jags, even with Urban Meyer as their head coach for the first 13 weeks, still were able to win 3 games. So that's a pretty sharp edge over 0 wins in 2022. But the reason that the Texans and the Falcons have the two shortest prices, if you will, to have the worst regular season record is because, well, they have the lowest win totals available on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Both with the same number, but slightly different juice. The Texans officially the lowest on the board from that juice perspective. Houston, 4.5. Atlanta, 4.5. But the Texans have even juice on both sides at minus 110 to the over of 4.5 wins and minus 110 to the under. Atlanta, slightly more juice to that over. The Dirty Birds at minus 120 to the over of the 4.5 wins. Now, Houston has had exactly 4 wins each of the past 2 seasons and exactly 4 wins in 3 of the last 5 years. But in a 9-year span, in those 5 other years, the Houston Texans have gone over 4.5 wins. 5 of the last 9 years for the Texans, they have been over 4.5. Now, I understand it is a very new feeling for the Atlanta Falcons that they have a 4.5 win total this year. And the projection for the Falcons this year is not necessarily stellar. A new quarterback in Marcus Mariota after Matt Ryan is now a member of the Indianapolis Colts. A new regime, second-year head coach in Arthur Smith, with his former QB when he was the OC in Tennessee. So at least there's that familiarity. But to see a 4.5 win total for Atlanta is a little bit drastic. It might not feel that way, given some of the Falcons football we have seen in the last couple of seasons, but Atlanta won 7 games last year. Sure, they won just 4 games in 2020, but the Falcons have gone over 4.5 wins, as that juice would indicate, 7 of the last 8 years. So it's not like the Falcons are a perennial bottom feeder in the National Football League. Maybe they're not in the postseason like we saw earlier this decade, or at least in the 2010s, but it's not like they're finishing under 4.5 wins often. Again, over in 7 of the last 8 years. Now, Lovie Smith is the new head coach for the Houston Texans, was the defensive coordinator a season ago. Of course, Lovie Smith has tons of head coaching experience in the National Football League with the Bears, the Buccaneers, and in the college ranks as of late with the Illinois Fighting Illini. David Culley was the head coach last year for the Houston Texans, got unceremoniously fired, which didn't make a ton of sense if you watched the Houston Texans a year ago. The Texans were booked as an underdog in 16 of 17 regular season games last year. They were 8-8 against the number in those 16 games, booked as a dog and a double-digit dog often. Again, we talked about it with the Detroit Lions. Episode 2 of Hard Knocks is today, by the way. But we talked about it with the Lions. Booked as an underdog all year last year, all 17 games, and Detroit was 11-6 against the spread. When you're not expected to win a football game and you compete well enough to keep it within that margin to cover a number, it at least shows you're not a doormat, you're not a walkover, you're a competitive football team. And the hope is that some of those close games that were competitive that you cover turn into close games that you just win outright. And under David Culley last year in 2021, again, the Texans, 16 of 17 games booked as a dog in 8-8 ATS last year as an underdog. Maybe there should be some optimism that Houston can go over 4.5 wins. They are very high on Davis Mills, and although head coach David Culley was fired, they retain a little bit of that congruency in their coaching staff as they elevate Lovie Smith from DC to head coach, and Pep Hamilton remains on as the offensive coordinator. It will also be interesting when we examine the Falcons with a win total of 4.5 to factor in that quarterback race there. Marcus Mariota is going to be the day one starter, but they spent a third-round draft pick on Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. And Des Ridder, in his opening preseason game this past weekend for the Falcons, was pretty darn good. 10 of 22, 103 yards, 2 touchdown passes, including the game winner under a minute and a half remaining, and ran for nearly 60 yards on the ground as well. If the Falcons are hovering around that win total of 4.5 all year, maybe trending toward the under by the time we get to week 7, week 8, week 9, might we see Desmond Ridder be that quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons? And if that's the case, please keep an eye on Des Ridder's odds to win Offensive Rookie of the Year in the National Football League. 25-1 right now, potentially with some value for you. So again, the Texans have the shortest number, the betting favorite, if you will, to be the worst team in the National Football League in 2022, plus 350 there. The Falcons only 50 cents behind at plus 400. And then the Seattle Seahawks tied alongside the Chicago Bears with the third shortest odds to have the worst record in the NFL this year at plus 750. Why is that? Well, Seattle has a win total of 5.5. And although the over has the juice, it's very, very minimal entering 2022. But it's a new era up in the Pacific Northwest. The Legion of Boom, long gone. Russell Wilson now plays for the Denver Broncos. But that 5.5 win total, as you see there for Seattle, plus 700 to get to double-digit wins, a playoff number at plus 550, one of the 5 longest odds in all of the National Football League. That 5.5 win total is very, very new for Seattle. It's a number they have gone over in 12 straight seasons. They have won double-digit games 8 of those 12 years, and the lowest amount of wins they have had in the past decade plus in Seattle was 7. A pretty good edge over a win total of 5.5. And both Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Geno got the start on Saturday night for Seattle. He was 10 of 15 for just a little bit over 100 yards. Drew Lock was 11 of 15 for a little bit over 100 yards, and both threw a touchdown. So I understand the quarterback battle is very different. Russ is no longer there. It's a new era in Seattle, but at least proven track record, they would at least, you would think, trend to the over of 5.5 wins. That's the start of a new year. The WNBA is in the postseason. It's playoff time in the W. Our coach, James Young, joins the morning after. Up next.
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Gam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all three major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Diamond Bets.
Fernando Tatis Jr. getting popped for a PED suspension for 80 games. Now, I know performance-enhancing drugs are something that, even here at the network, they encourage us, especially myself. They say, please, can you enhance your performance just a little bit more, Joe? This year, it's not going to happen next year for a good chunk of the season. And guess what? It's more important now that you added Juan Soto. So obviously this news rocked Major League Baseball.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
If we're going to treat everyone the same in this world, then he deserves to be treated the same way. A-Rod, McGuire, Sosa. I believe all of his numbers are phony. He's a fake. He is a cheater. He is a user. He is a fraud. He is a steroid guy. All those numbers, those jacked home run totals. He hit a home run every day.
The Sports Grid Network.
It's playoff time in the W. The WNBA postseason starts tomorrow. Best of 3 in the opening round, best of 5 in the semifinal series, and then best of 5 to crown a WNBA champion in 2022. Welcome back to the Morning After, live here on this Tuesday on Sports Grid. Our coach, James Young, joins us now for the playoff preview in the WNBA. JY, how juiced up are you for some postseason action on the hardwood?
This is playoff time. So, and you got to love it that a league has these 8 teams and they've gone away from the single elimination and they've gone best out of 3. Different format, though, folks, really quickly. In the first series, it is the first 2 games at the better seed and then game 3 at the worst seed. So take that into consideration as you start handicapping the series prices, which are out on FanDuel.
And the number 1 overall seed entering the WNBA postseason, the Las Vegas Aces. The top spot in the W right now. And right now, JY, Vegas, a very substantial favorite in their opening round series against the 8 seed, the Phoenix Mercury. Minus 4,000 is that price on the Aces to win this series outright. Again, best of 3 in that opening round. JY, do you agree with how heavily favored Las Vegas is in their opening round matchup against the Mercury?
Absolutely, Bennett. If you really look at this, okay, besides the fact that the first 2 games are in Vegas, we know about the Brittany Griner situation. Taurasi is out. Then this whole thing happens with Skylar Diggins-Smith where she's not back. So you're looking at, and Tina Charles, who signed their preseason, had a contract divorce, which is equivalent to a buyout in the NBA. So you're looking at the top 4 players from the Phoenix Mercury not playing versus the best team in the WNBA. This is going to be an absolute slaughterfest. Aces should absolutely roll in this series.
And JY, one of the reasons they are such a substantial favorite is because of that top spot and the home floor advantage. And we see that for game number 1 tomorrow night out in the desert. The Aces at home, a 14.5-point favorite. We showed you the series outright price. That means Las Vegas just has to win the series in a best of 3 action. But can Las Vegas cover a 14.5-point spread against Phoenix tomorrow night?
This is where it gets tricky, Ben, because now you get worried about the backdoor cover. Okay, so there's 2 things to look at. FanDuel has not put them out yet. Look for them probably tonight, if not tomorrow morning. Number 1, if the team total for the Aces is 92 points or less, I'm dead serious. Take the over. This is the best offensive team in the WNBA. They've scored 100-plus points versus Phoenix twice this year, the number 1 ranked scoring offense versus the number 10 ranked scoring defense. And if you want to play the game, instead of going Aces minus 14.5, let's see what the first half line is. The Aces are notorious for coming out and smoking teams early. Remember, folks, when they get through this, they're going to have a great matchup between the Storm and the Mystics, most likely to go 3 games. Hint, hint. So if I am the Aces with an extra day off as well, I'm going to try and hammer this series. Look for them to jump out big early, take the first half, and then take the team total over for Las Vegas.
JY, really well done, because there has to be some angles to find profitability on the Aces, who are so heavily favored against Phoenix. A minus 4,000 series outright favorite. A 14.5-point favorite in the opening game tomorrow night out in Las Vegas. And maybe because of that home floor advantage for the first 2 games, the Aces to make quick work of the Mercury, JY, as you alluded to, minus 600 for a sweep over Phoenix in the opening round. Will the Aces cash that minus 600 ticket and win this series 2-0?
They blow them out. I don't think this is going to be a contest. I think they're playing too well. Becky Hammond. Now, listen, there are times where the Aces do fall asleep and they give you some losses. You're like, wait, what? I mean, I remember they lost the game by about 16 or 18 to Atlanta Dream. No, folks. Since this Commissioner's Cup game, they have been rolling. They want to rest. If you're crazy enough to put money on the minus 600, I wouldn't do it. I would just play the game, play the team total, and play the first half, and that's how I'll try to make my money in this series.
And JY, as we look at this, you see Las Vegas now entering the postseason as the top seed in the WNBA playoffs and as the betting favorites once again, plus 175. 55 cents ahead of the reigning WNBA champions in the Chicago Sky at plus 230. We'll talk about the distinction in these numbers in just a couple of moments. But first, let's focus on those 2 top teams at the top of the standings and the odds board. Who do you think should be the favored team entering the WNBA playoffs, the Aces or the Sky?
Oh, it's the Aces. I mean, did you see what they did to them in that Commissioner's Cup Finals? Did you see what they did to them last week? You got to remember, folks, since July, I think the 3rd or 4th, the Chicago Sky had the best record in the WNBA. So what did the Aces do? They sent 2 statements in the last 3 weeks. Beating them down in the Commissioner's Cup Final, was up by 20 in the first, quarter, I do believe, in that game in Chicago, and then turned around and drilled them again in Las Vegas last week, which then put them in a position where they could clinch the 1 seed. I think the Aces are the best team in the WNBA, and I'm going to say this. I don't know if the Sky, let alone get to the finals, folks. I think they can get tripped up in the first round, possibly.
And JY, you see that top right there. Again, the Aces plus 170, Chicago plus 235. Within nearly $2 of that, the Connecticut Sun at plus 380 as well. But go all the way down to the Mercury, they're 130 to 1 compared to the Aces at plus 175. Now, Las Vegas and Chicago both ended the regular season at 26-10, straight up. But the Mercury were 6 games below 500 at 15-21 straight up. JY, why is there such a distinction, not only in these odds, but how these teams will fare in the postseason?
Well, it's because of the fact that the Aces, to me, are just they're that much better than everyone else. But the Mercury with the injuries are an issue, and I'm telling you, folks, Ben knows this, and he's been on this as well. Do not sleep on the Liberty. They have not been healthy all season. Yep. They just got Laney back. They got her into her starting lineup. Yep. And remember, folks, interesting thing took place on Sunday. After the Aces won, they clinched the number 1 seed. Chicago had a game versus Phoenix. They could have tanked the game and sent New York to Vegas instead, and then had the Mercury. They played the game out, and they won to draw the Liberty. Do not sleep on this series, folks. This actually, the Liberty series is going to be one of the 2 best series in the first round, along with the Mystics and the Storm.
And we see that in the odds. The Liberty enter the postseason on a 3-game win streak and have won 6 of their last 8. Chicago and Las Vegas have the same exact record, and the Aces were minus 4,000 in their series outright. That is not the case for the Sky, who begin their title defense tomorrow night at home against the New York Liberty. But look at the outright price, JY. It's only minus 430. Yes, Chicago is still heavily favored, but not nearly the same number the Aces have against the Mercury. How much more competitive will this series be between Chicago and New York?
It's going to be a lot more competitive, Ben. Throw out the first matchup that they played, the second game of the season, when New York Liberty started off 1-7. They got blown up by 33. The Liberty have beaten the Sky. They had a 2-point loss to the Sky when Vandersloot hit a 3 at the buzzer, and the last game was an 8-point win in Chicago, and the Liberty were in the game through 3 quarters. Folks, I just think this is going 3. So if you're asking me the best way to play this, I would split your money. Chicago to win 2-1 at plus 270. New York to win 2-1 at plus 490. If it goes 3, you're guaranteed to come out with plus money.
It's a great way of looking at those plus money opportunities because Chicago is a 7.5-point favorite in the opening game of this series against the Liberty tomorrow night. Look at that price on New York on the money line. Plus 280, a very similar number to the Sky winning this series 2-1. Tomorrow night, JY, the Sky, a 7.5-point favorite. You mentioned how competitive New York has been against the reigning WNBA champions. Can Sabrina Ionescu in the Liberty cover that 7.5-point spread tomorrow night?
That's my best bet tomorrow, is the Liberty plus the points, plus 7.5. It was 6.5 last night, and it's moved up a point since last night at minus 114. I love the play. Got to remember, folks, Laney wasn't there. So now when you talk about the Liberty, folks, offensively, when they are rolling between Ionescu, Howard, Laney, Dangerfield now in the starting lineup, you bring Sammy Whitcomb off the bench, Rebecca Allen, this team, when they score, can score in bunches. I think the Liberty keep this close. And think about it, folks. If I think this is going 3 and the first 2 games are in Chicago, what am I telling you? That if there's a game the Liberty can steal, it's going to be game 1. If you don't want to do the plus 265, take the Liberty plus 7.5 at minus 114.
Quickly here, JY, only about 20 seconds left. The 2 series that start on Thursday, the Sun versus the Wings, Connecticut minus 800. The Storm versus the Mystics, a 2018 WNBA Finals rematch, Seattle minus 170. Who wins both of those series?
Go Connecticut in 2, Seattle in 3. You could split it the same way. Seattle to win 2-1, same thing with the Mystics, still come out with plus money.
I love the thought, JY. A great postseason preview for the W. Now we look at college football up next on TMX.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
People are going to the betting window
Betting
and
above
betting
the
them now
rim.
before the trade takes place.
How
Diamond
dare they
bets.
do what's fiscally responsible? See how it plays out. Buffalo's going all in right
Football
now. They need
full
to put
circle.
all their chips in the middle of the table. It's do or die for them.
And Godwin being out, they've had a little bit of a shakeup.
In-game live all access.
You could take the points, you could take the money line, and
we have to go to San Jose too. Maybe a small play on San Jose. I'm going to go both underdogs here. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Wow. In-game
Phillies
live.
here,
Prime
over minus
time.
128. You do have to lay a little bit of wood here, Donnie, but I think against Patrick Corbin.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing
Get
elimination.
the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Diamond bets.
Dodgers heading into the weekend, minus 160. This morning, when you wake up bright and early and get the crust out of your eye, it's plus 155. The Mets were plus 220 after Jacob deGrom's 1-0 win yesterday, plus 200. So the Mets are getting ever closer here, my friend, to this National League number. It's a 3-team race for the National League crown. It's the Dodgers, it's the Mets, it's the Braves. What's fascinating to me is that the Brewers are still plus 1,400 and the Cardinals are plus 15.
Only on Sports Grid. Pharrell, coast to coast.
10 years ago, you couldn't even touch California. Now, Prop 26 is one that allows Indian gaming on Indian lands and 4 casinos. Prop 27 everywhere. And needless to say, FanDuel, DraftKings, all the big boys are supporting Prop 27, including Major League Baseball. Prediction is it passes in a landslide, and they creatively say
the Sports Grid Network.
The rankings reaction continues right here on a Tuesday edition of the Morning After, live on Sports Grid. A week and a half out from the 2022 college football season. 2 Saturdays from now, week 0, Saturday, August 27th, gets the 2022 college football campaign kicked off, and Connor O'Gara joins us now on TMA, a national college football columnist for Saturday Down South, with a specific coverage mostly of the SEC as well. There's an SEC team in action, week 0. Vanderbilt on the road, more than a touchdown favorite against Hawaii. And the AP Top 25 came out yesterday. COG, thank you for joining us here on the Morning After. There is just one lone Saturday remaining with no college football left until the middle of January 2023. I can see the end of the tunnel, Connor. It is a wonderful time.
Look, week 0 is great. It's fine. I'm not going to poo-poo college football. I will not. I will not.
Good.
Week 1 is what truly kind of gets me fired up. I don't get that same sort of juice for week 0. Just just because you tell me that college football is on my TV, it's almost a little tease, right? Like we're not going to get these matchups of top 25 teams. We're not going to see teams that are going to be competing for conference championships in week 1. And if you want to tell me that Nebraska is going to compete for a conference championship, I'm going to go tell you to take a run around New York City with your Nebraska hat like you often do, and then think about your decision making. I'm just saying, nobody in action in week 0 is going to be at that level. What year? What year, Ben? We've been over this. The year that they get to a bowl game, the year that they beat a top 25 team, the year that Scott Frost doesn't puke on his shoes in the final 2 minutes of a football game. I don't know what year you're talking about, but the year that they do anything of relevance is probably not going to happen.
I don't actually think Nebraska is going to win the Big Ten West, but I'll start to stoke the flames as much as possible. And they're a 12.5-point favorite week 0 in Dublin at Aviva Stadium against Northwestern. But let's start.
Was that an Irish
the
accent that I just heard from you?
Yeah, Dublin.
Was that?
I say Dublin all the time. Yeah, I try to get into it as we go. I don't mean to offend anybody, but I like to say Dublin. All right. Anyway, we'll leave that for another time. Nebraska is not in the AP top 25, although the Cornhuskers did receive a single vote yesterday added to the offseason hype train in Lincoln. But at the top of the AP top 25, Connor, by no surprise to anybody, Alabama. In fact, the top 5 the same in the AP as it was in the coaches poll. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, the reigning national champs in Georgia at number 3, Clemson number 4, and Notre Dame at number 5. The SEC, all told, Connor, has 6 teams in the AP top 25. What was your strongest takeaway from the AP poll being released yesterday?
Well, how about the disrespect for Texas to not get a single first place vote? I mean, goodness gracious, did AP writers not see what the coaches poll did by having Texas at number 18 with a first place vote coming off of a 5-7 season in which they missed out on bowl eligibility because they couldn't beat Kansas? I mean, come on, let's give Texas some love here. They're getting so much disrespect. No, in all seriousness, I thought it was interesting to see kind of the way that top 5, top 6 was going to play out. I had questions about whether or not Alabama was going to be a unanimous preseason number 1. We've only seen one of those in the history of the AP poll. That was 2015 Ohio State. So maybe a good omen that Alabama isn't a unanimous preseason number 1. I was curious what was going to happen after that top 3. We've talked about that bet, that very favorable bet with those top 3 teams, in my opinion, are the only 3 teams in college football that can win a national title this year. When you get to number 4, you realize, oh crap, we're throwing some darts here. We are. And that's how quickly it falls off. And it is falling off with Clemson at number 4. If you're a believer in DJ Uiagalelei, I'm going to say go back and watch anything that happened in 2021 because the dude didn't finish in the top 100 in quarterback rating. And yes, they have a lot of pieces defensively that are back. I love their defensive line, Brian Brzee, Xavier Thomas, Miles Murphy, but they do lose Brent Venables. A lot of questions there. And then what was it going to be after that? We're talking about a Notre Dame team at number 5 who is 2-21 against AP top 5 teams since 1999, 14 of those 21 losses by 3 scores or more. So believing that Marcus Freeman, a first-time head coach with a new quarterback, is going to step in and kind of be that top 5 team in the country, I just don't necessarily buy it. But A&M's the most overrated team in the country coming into the year. That's what it comes down to. A team that hasn't played in a conference championship game in the 21st century, that was 8-4 last year and 4-4 in conference play, that lost a lot of talent, is sitting there at number 6 in the country based on what, I ask? I just am kind of baffled to see the way that it has played out 4 through 6 there. I would have given more love to teams that have shown it, teams like Baylor, teams like Utah. I have more faith in them.
So last year, Texas A&M finished the year unranked. Connor, you have shared with us before when you have been on the morning after, you do not believe in the offseason hype that follows Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies in College Station. But we know that being within the top 6 in the preseason AP poll is very important for winning a national championship. 10 of the last 11 national title winners have been ranked in the top 6. All of the 8 college football playoff national championship winners have been ranked within the top 6. A&M is ranked 6th in the country. Why won't it be the year, though, for the Aggies to capitalize on that offseason optimism?
I'll try and talk you out of betting an A&M future to win a national championship. If you're thinking about getting a little bit frisky, talking about some of those odds and what they are outside of the top 3. As I just mentioned, have not played in a conference championship game in the 21st century. They just lost Mike Elko, their defensive coordinator, one of the best 5 defensive minds in this sport. They just lost basically their entire defensive line. If your pitch to me is, oh, well, they just signed all of these stud defensive linemen in this historic 2022 class, I'd ask you this. How many times do we talk about a team getting to a national championship or getting to a college football playoff because of their freshman class? That doesn't happen in this sport, much less in the toughest division in this sport, which the SEC West is. Their schedule is still difficult. I think they're going to be able to beat Miami. Do I think they're going to be able to beat Alabama? Do I think they're going to be able to beat Arkansas? Do I even think they're going to be able to beat LSU? No. I don't think that A&M is worthy of this type of consideration. I think people are still holding on to this belief that Jimbo Fisher is a national championship winning coach because he won a title 9 years ago. You know what? He hasn't had a top 30 passing offense since Jameis Winston left. He hasn't had an all-conference quarterback since Jameis Winston left. They have questions at receiver. They got questions all over the place on offense. Jimbo Fisher changed up the entire assistant staff this offseason just at the start of fall camp because he's desperate to get something to work offensively after last year was a disaster. They had the number 3 defense in the country last year, and it still only got him to a 4-4 record in SEC play. Don't put a future on A&M to win a national championship unless you just like setting money on fire.
And that 2013 national championship team, Florida State, led by Jimbo Fisher, was the only national title winner in the last 11 years to be ranked outside the preseason AP top 6. You mentioned LSU. Some news out of Baton Rouge yesterday. Quarterback Miles Brennan was informed by the team he will not be the starting quarterback this year for the Bayou Bengals, and he has decided to call it a career in football. But it's year number 1 for Brian Kelly down in the Bayou. LSU's win total for 2022 is 6.5. Connor, LSU has the same odds to win the SEC at 100-1 as they do to win a national championship, also 100-1. What does success look like for Brian Kelly in year number 1 at LSU?
Well, I'll say this. There are going to be a lot of really bad takes about year 1 head coaches and a lot of people jumping to conclusions because there are 8 programs who have played in a national championship in the 21st century who have a first-year head coach. That includes Virginia Tech because technically they played in a national championship in the first week of the 21st century. So if we're considering that, we're considering how does it relate to Brian Kelly at LSU. His team is a massive unknown. There is no more unpredictable team in college football than LSU. And it's because of the division they play in, and it's because they got 10 Power 5 transfers. This is a team that has questions at quarterback, even though they have options without Miles Brennan, who wasn't going to start. He was going to be third string. That's why he's stepping away from football. We still don't know what to expect from Garrett Nussmeier. We still don't even know what to expect from Jaden Daniels, who came over from Arizona State in the spring. They are loaded with weapons at receiver. Might be the best group of receivers in the SEC if Kayshon Boutte is right. But this is all you need to know about LSU. Their best player returning is Kayshon Boutte. He has so many questions about whether or not he's going to be the guy for a full year. Brian Kelly talked about learning his last name in spring. This is a guy who's had 2 ankle surgeries since he last stepped on the football field. This is somebody who was force-fed targets from Max Johnson, who, by the way, is now at Texas A&M. So what do you even expect from LSU's best player? I don't know. I have LSU at 7-5, so I am hitting that over. But I think it's going to be a wild year. I can see them beating a team like Tennessee. Like I talked about, I can see them going into College Station, winning that regular season finale. But am I banking on LSU to be the surprise team in year 1 of the Brian Kelly era to be able to beat Nick Saban, which is ultimately what it takes to win an SEC championship? No, I'm not there yet.
LSU did receive votes in the AP Top 25 preseason poll. We mentioned the 6 teams out of the Southeastern Conference that were ranked. 3 in the top 6, Alabama 1, Georgia 3, A&M at number 6, and then a run from 19 to 21. Arkansas at 19th in the country. Kentucky is a top 20 team, and Ole Miss is ranked 21st. Connor, all 3 of these teams right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook, 150-1 to win a national championship in 2022. Out of this group, who do you think might make the most noise in the SEC or on the college football national landscape as well?
I don't like it from a title odds perspective just because none of those teams, they don't have the talent to win a national championship. They don't. And if you look at the 24/7 Sports Talent Composite rankings, it'll show exactly what I'm talking about this year. If I'm putting a flyer on one of those teams, though, it would probably have to be Kentucky, though I do think Arkansas is the number 3 team in the SEC coming into this year. But, of course, they're in the West. It's a little bit more difficult to kind of navigate that schedule. Yeah. And their non-conference schedule is brutal. I mean, BYU and Cincinnati, they don't even have a Power 5 team in non-conference play, but Arkansas's non-conference slate is so tricky. Oh, by the way, Bobby Petrino and Hugh Freeze on that non-conference slate. But I would probably go with Kentucky just because they get Georgia at home. And the non-conference schedule is favorable. You like how they match up against Louisville after they took them to the woodshed last year. I'm pretty sure Will Levis just scored another touchdown against Louisville. So I would probably go with them if I'm talking about SEC odds. But again, Kentucky's got 2 winning seasons in SEC play since the Jimmy Carter administration. So I'm not necessarily banking on them to all of a sudden be a team that can win an SEC title. That's still a little bit too much of a long shot. Those 3 teams, I would probably stay away from any sort of future predicting them to win an SEC title. It's going to take a Herculean effort to get past either Alabama or Georgia.
All right, Connor, I'm putting you on the spot here. Just under a minute left in this segment. We talked about the top 3 teams and the top 4 in both the coaches and AP poll. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Clemson 4. Also the 4 best odds to win a national championship. Alabama being the betting favorite at plus 180. Who is facing off in Connor O'Gara's national championship game for the 2022 college football season?
That's boring, but it's Bama and Ohio State. I mean, that's the most boring possible answer. It's a 1 seed. It's a 2 seed. I've said it on these airwaves before. I have Ohio State winning a national championship, and I keep coming back to the belief that being a preseason AP number 1 is harder than we give it credit for. Only one time in the last 17 years have we seen one of those teams win a national championship. It was 2017 Alabama. I think Ohio State has that chip on its shoulder. I love the hire of Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State. I think that $2 million investment in him is going to be very, very wise. So I have those 2 teams playing in a national championship. Alabama probably wins that game 6-7 times out of 10, but I'll take Ohio State winning it all.
And you better keep an eye on Utah to make the college football playoff as well. Connor O'Gara, thank you as always. We round out the morning after up next.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
Pro Football Doc has found its new home right here with Sports Injury Central. And with that comes our expansion into other sports. Sports Injury Central will give you nonstop exclusive injury analysis from experienced team doctors from all 3 major sports. Doctors with resumes that include teams like the Chicago Bulls, the Texas Rangers, and the LA Chargers. So gain a fantasy, DFS, and betting edge right now for free at SICScore.com.
Diamond Bets.
Fernando Tatis Jr. getting popped for a PED suspension for 80 games. Now, I know performance-enhancing drugs are something that, even here at the network, they encourage us, especially myself. They say, please, can you enhance your performance just a little bit more, Joe? This year, it's not going to happen next year for a good chunk of the season. And guess what? This is more important now that you added Juan Soto. So obviously this news rocked Major League Baseball.
Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
They're not going to start him. So if he comes in, hypothetically, let's say things don't go well and you're at the halfway point, week 8, week 9, you start playing him. I don't believe you can win Rookie of the Year starting halfway through. That kid, Pickens, if they throw him the ball enough, he has looked phenomenally well over any kid I've seen yet.
The Sports Grid Network.
Tuesday on the morning after comes to a close in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us here on Sirius XM, channel 159. That's the home for Sports Grid Radio on Sirius XM. All across the Spiz Grizz network, that's Sports Grid. I am Ben Stevens. Again, it was a great Tuesday. We went across the sports landscape, college football, National Football League previews as well. Who's going to have the worst record? Of course, Major League Baseball. A deep dive into the WNBA postseason and that full playoff preview. And as we started hour number 2 is the same way we ended. The best game of the day in the bigs, in MLB, the Houston Astros on the road against the Chicago White Sox. On one side, it's Justin Verlander for Houston facing off against Dylan Cease for Chicago, the two frontrunners to win the American League Cy Young. How do we find some action? We'll have that discussion before we say farewell and before we say goodbye. It's time for a Major League Baseball best bet. It is time for bye, bye, bye. The total between the White Sox and the Astros today is at 7. The under has the juice. It makes sense. Two really good arms. The two betting favorites between Verlander and Cease to win the American League Cy Young. Justin Verlander, the odds-on favorite, at minus 125. In his last start, Verlander gave up 3 earned runs. But prior to that, he was on a 7-start streak of allowing 1 earned run or less. Dylan Cease laughs in the eye of 7 straight starts with 1 earned or less because Dylan Cease is on a 14-start streak allowing a single earned run or less. So let's not go to the game total overall. Let's go first 5 total. 3.5. The under has the juice at minus 128. We go under 3.5 for the first 5 total in this wonderful marquee matchup on a Tuesday in Major League Baseball between Justin Verlander and the Astros and Dylan Cease and the Chicago White Sox. Also, White Sox money line if you feel like a sprinkle. The morning after, each and every weekday, it starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Ben Stevens, and we'll talk tomorrow.